Okay folks, time to mount our scope. Now, a lot of you may already be going, hey, that's a different rail that's on that rifle than there was last time. And you would be correct. Ran into an issue that I should have foreseen and I did not, but the other rail that we put on here, while it was a weaver, it was not an extended rail, and apparently they make different styles. Duh, I think I would have known that. But anyway, the slots would not marry up with these bolts. These bolts were too wide. They would not go down in there. So I had to get an extended rail. So we had to order another one, had to wait on it to get in. Now I've gone ahead and I've already bedded this, put the blue Loctite on it, cranked it down, gone through all that procedure. That procedure was identical. So I didn't see a reason to repeat that on camera, so it's already been done. Get our scope mount on, and we're going to be using this M-308 dual ring one-piece unit, which is really nice. It actually came with this particular scope, but you can buy this separately. And it's got some mounting rails right here. Now these mounting rails, if you'll look at them, hopefully that will show up. The way that they're cut, the wider part goes actually on the Picatinny rail itself. The narrower part actually comes up and marries up with the top of the mount itself. So the first thing we need to do is get it on the rail. Now, I've already had this on here at one time and set my eye relief so I know which slots they go into. But these, you'll have to figure out for your particular application. And the best thing to do is to take these screws out to almost maximum and slide it in that way. Now you can take one screw at a time, hold the rails up and screw them in, but you can get them wide enough to where they will slide over one side and then down over the other as well. Okay, each of these screws will fit in the slots that are on the bottom of the scope mount, so it holds it all in one little unit. So it's pretty simple to get it aligned. Then all you have to do really is just tighten them down. Now, one thing while I'm doing this that I want to tell you, and it does have blue Loctite that comes on these screws, so that's cool, you don't have to go ahead and do that. One thing I will say is this: I had to call Nikon customer support, and as much as I really like this particular scope, this is the second time in about 3 years that I've called Nikon support, and I like their products, but guys, Nikon's customer support sucks, okay? This does not come with any torque recommendation or torque specifications. So there's no way, it doesn't have it in the documentation what you're supposed to torque these down to, either the rings or the rail itself. So I called Nikon customer service. The dude had absolutely no idea what I was talking about. I called him up and said I would like to get the torque recommendations that Nikon has for this M-308 mount. This guy's name was Joel, something along the lines of, so you want to know what rifle you can put the rail on? No, I want to know how tight to tighten screws down so that once I already have it on there, I'll know the torque specifications. Oh, so you want to know which scopes will work with that rail mount? No. I want to know how tight freaking tighten screws down. Because, you know, like some manufacturers will say, okay, torque these down to 20 inch-pounds or torque these down to 25 inch-pounds, whatever. Oh, we don't get that specific about our torquing. We just tell the customers to torque them down until they can't tighten it any further. Use some common sense, just don't over tighten it, but get a good snug fit. We don't get into details. Okay, so Nikon, you get a hit on that one. That's something you need to readdress. So what we're going to do is we're going to employ some common sense. So the rail was torqued down at 20 foot-pounds. That's what Weaver recommends. Now this rail here, since it's already got the blue Loctite on it, we're going to torque this to 20 foot-pounds as well. And most rings that are of this size, I have found that in the past, about 15 to 20 pounds of torque. So we're going to torque these to 20 foot-pounds. So we're going to go basically 20, 20, and 20. You can experiment with that if you wanted to. If you want to make it a little bit different, that would be fine. But these screws on the side, once they're down, you know, I think 20 foot-pounds is going to be fine. And we're going to use our little Wheeler fat wrench. I already got it out here somewhere. There we go. And I already got it dialed up to 20 foot-pounds. So we're going to start in the middle and we're just going to torque it over. and I like to go do it twice just to make sure. And I think that'll be just fine. Now, I did read some online forums about this a little while ago, and some people were saying 25 pounds, some people were saying 30. But like I said, in my experience, I think 20 is going to be fine. You can mess around with that if you want to. Next thing that we're going to do is going to go ahead and take the rings off. Now, one thing about the rings is with most ring sets, you want to keep the uppers in the same position that when you take them off are. And you want to keep, you want to take them off, or I can't even talk, there's my train again. You want to keep the upper part of the ring on the same part of the back of the lower, and you want to keep it facing the same direction, so be careful when you set it down. Now, this particular ring set, the way that this is manufactured, you should not have to lap these rings, and I'm not going to do that. We may come back and do that later if we need to. But we're not going to worry about lapping them. A little bit of the shipping oil there on them, which is fine, not a problem there. But we'll take and we'll set this scope down in it. And as I've said, I've already had it on there once, so I got a pretty good idea about where the eye relief is. We'll go over the specs on the scope here a little bit later. Now, I'm just going to kind of eyeball this for right now. Once we get it ready to sight in for the first time, then we will we'll talk about how to level it up. Now, there's a couple different ways you can do that. A lot of people will go out on the range, and on the target they'll hang a string up with a nail or some kind of weight at the bottom so it hangs vertical, and then they'll just basically look through the scope, turn it until the lines line up. That's a good way of doing it. If you want to do that way, make sure your rifle's level. You can use levels if you want to. I usually kind of eyeball it and get it in a ballpark. Never have had much trouble with that. And we'll take our time. I'm going to go ahead and take these screws out, and we will put some blue Loctite on them as well. Blue Loctite is a must, guys, for stuff like this. You do not want that backing out. It just takes a drop. It doesn't take very much at all. Drop it right down, and we'll do the next one the same way. That's it. That should have it set. And we have eyeballed it to make sure that we're pretty well level. Now, a couple of features about this particular scope, guys. It is a Nikon M-308. Very, very nice scope. It's 4:16 on the zoom, so it's got a nice zoom factor. The field of view is anywhere between 6 and 25 feet at 100 yards, depending again on your zoom factor. It has a parallax adjustment, of course, elevation and windage, and they are zeroable turrets. So that means basically you set it for 100 yards, you can turn the turrets back to zero, pop them up and then set them back down. Your zero set there. The eye relief on it's about 4 inches, something along those lines. You know, I don't know how much it weighs, probably about, I don't know, 19, 20 ounces, something like that. But it's a nice scope. It is, it's not a cheap scope. This entire set right here, which it does come with this mounting hardware, about $550 depending on where you're at. Comes stock or standard with the eyepiece release. They flip up, and it does have a refractor that you can put on the end of it as well. So it's a nice scope. It's not too bad on price. Now we got to get it to the range and see what she'll do. And that is another video. So anyway, we'll talk to you guys later.